everybody. Let's see, what is today? Today is Thursday, like February 8th. And Micah came by. I have not been on this internet, on this video, on this talking to you very much in a very long time. And I had something today that was just kind of popping up inside of me, and I had so many different thoughts that came to my mind that I just wanted to share. But one of them in particular, excuse me, I've had laryngitis for the greater part of the last 3 weeks. So if I have a little bit of noise, I'm sorry. And if I sound a little raspy, I'm sorry. But when I was thinking about what was coming to my mind, it was about how that we are supernatural beings. We have deeper things about us. And I think nobody in our modern times thinks that there's not something supernatural about us. Even if you say, oh, you don't believe in God, you still believe that there's emotional transmissions between each other. Like sometimes you just get a gut feeling that that loved one is in danger somewhere, or that they're okay even though you don't know where they are or what's happening. You feel at peace. And so there's something supernatural about us. So in talking about that and in thinking about that, I wanted to share with you what the scripture or the Bible, that's the same thing, but just in case you call it one or the other, says about that in terms of who we belong to. Okay, so when we were created as God's property, but not as a possession for control and oppressing, but as a family member, as a loved one, as a part of his family. But he gave us a choice, which is not really the way you usually do family. Like when a child is born, they don't really get to go, oh, like which parent do you want to live with? Or do you want to go live with the neighbor? I mean, like we don't do it that way, right? We automatically assimilate that child as part of our family. And if we adopt, we do the same thing. We pull that child into our home and they become ours. Well, that's the way the Lord wanted it, but he gave us a lot of freedom. And so the very first couple had their freedom in the Garden of Eden. And in that garden, there was an opportunity for them to think about some options. And the options were, if they ate of the fruit God told them not to eat from, they would experience a transformation. Now, the way it was worded to them, that transformation was that they would know good from evil, and that they would know the difference so that it would make them like God. So that made them feel a little suspicious. They're like, oh, God knows something we don't know, and we could find out what he knows, and then we would know what he knows. So they did. They took a bite of that particular piece of fruit. First, it was Eve, who, by the way, did not know as much of why what was, because she had not been there as long. And then she gave it to her husband, who ate. And then their eyes were opened, and they saw good and evil. The problem was they could never get back to good on their own. Now they were broken from good, and they now knew evil, and they knew what good was, but they couldn't get back to good. When you think about that for yourself, think about when you just have this gnawing, oh, I wish I hadn't said that. Oh, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I'd have been different about that. There's just something innately part of us that just makes us screw up. And so we can't get back to good on our own. So Jesus came and bore the evil that we united ourselves with in the punishment against his self, so that he could live triumphantly without doing evil while evil was coming at him. He died for our evil, but not his own. He lived perfectly. And the proof is that he was able to resurrect from the dead. People who live evil and align themselves with evil can't resurrect themselves. And Jesus did. And so when Jesus did that, he bought our righteousness and our salvation. So we are in a war, and that war is to tear us further away and keep us from reuniting with God and in righteousness, being a part of his family. So when you feel all these things coming against you and you're like, it's like I'm like being pulled apart. It's like I'm in a war. It's like, what is going on? It is a war. It is a soul war. It is a spirit war. And the devil wants to keep you from God. And he wants to keep you from joy and peace and love and goodness and overcoming faith. That means living an overcoming evil life through faith. So overcoming life over evil through faith. Come to him, all you who labor and are heavy laden. And he says he will give you rest. You can get back to good through Jesus. I hope you got that, and I hope it blessed you if you didn't know it. And if you already knew it, that it just reminded you of how loved you are, how important you are, and that you aren't crazy. You're in a war. Come back to God. Come back to Jesus. Push in. Pray. Read his word. Get yourself next to the good of God and make him the ultimate supreme of all of your life, and all things will come in alignment.